This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
There's something especially telling about what people do after the crime. When the chaos settles, when the police are watching, when the story starts to slip through their fingers. Because that's when the scramble begins. And the truth has to compete with the cover-up. And in the James Craig case, the cover-up, it's not just sloppy, it's next-level disturbing. Prosecutors allege that after Angela died and after the poison trail was starting to catch up on him, Craig didn't try to prove his innocence. He allegedly tried to rewrite reality. Literally. We're talking about a man who, from inside a jail cell, reportedly drafted a script for his teenage daughter. Not a heartfelt apology. Honey, I'm sorry I did this. This was horrible. I'm a maniacal monster. Run for your life. No. Also not an I'm innocent message either. No. He sent her a script for a deepfake video where Angela would confess on camera to killing herself. This man doesn't know how these things work, clearly, because that's not the easiest thing to pull off. Even if you're really trying to make it look real, it's not going to hold up in court. I mean, think about this. Your wife is dead. You're being investigated for her murder. You're behind bars, and your next move is asking your daughter to help create fake suicide evidence using your mother's image and voice. That's not desperation, that's delusion with a criminal plan. And quite honestly, one of the first times I'm seeing deepfakes or AI being used to try and hide a crime. I'll remember this. Maybe we all will. It didn't work. It didn't happen. But he didn't stop there. According to investigators, Craig also tried to bribe other inmates to recruit fake witnesses, people who would claim Angela was depressed, unstable, even dangerous. One witness said Craig offered $20,000 to get it done. Another later reported including instructions for what these fictional people should say and how to make it believable. There was even an alleged hit ordered in this. So now we've got a man on trial for murder who allegedly trying to commit perjury by proxy, tamper with evidence, and possibly solicit evidence and harm against a lead detective. And it all adds up to one thing. It's called consciousness of guilt. You don't need a stage to deepfake unless the truth is damning. But here's a legal question. How much of this sticks? Can these jailhouse letters and witness tampering claims hold up in court? Will they be too prejudicial? What kind of impact will they make on a jury already wrestling with a deeply emotional case? Eric Faddis is back with insight on how prosecutors frame this kind of post-crime behavior and how defense attorneys even begin to explain it away. Because in this chapter, the crime may be over, but the damage, the moral, strategic, legal fallout, it is still unfolding. In the comments section on YouTube, I want to hear your thoughts on what's going on in this case. Let us know. Search Hidden Killers, the Tony Bruschi, if you're not there already. If you're on the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, hit subscribe as well. And please do join us on YouTube so we can hear your voice as well. So let's get into it. The other part of this that I'm curious to get your thoughts on, he shows up to the hospital smiling and calm while she's dying and is, sending the picture to his side chick. Juries are going to see this. Is this something where, when you look at James Craig, and you said there's almost an aura about him where he maybe feels invincible, at least, what one may take off of it. Do you think that these sort of actions, the way he was acting in the hospital, the fact that he ordered this stuff, and it's very traceable that he ordered this stuff, was this someone who has kind of a grandiose sense of oneself that no one is going to be the wiser no matter how many dumb moves I make over here?
That's been my impression so far. And granted, we're still relatively early in the trial.
Yeah.
I think we still have a few weeks to go.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, you look at those Amazon orders that most folks would be like, God, I don't want to do this or else I'm going to get caught. And then you combine that with some of his actions in the jail that he did to try and cover this up. And on top of that, in the hospital interaction, Tony, this was something I didn't know until the trial started. He actually went into the hospital room with scrubs on. Now he's a dentist, and it hasn't come out whether he was doing dental work that day. But the argument for the prosecution is that, hey, he was going in there so he wouldn't be noticed, and there would be no one else in there thinking anything was weird while he was allegedly introducing cyanide into Angela Craig's body.
Doing more in the hospital itself.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, he had the scrubs on in the hospital when he went to meet with Angela. When prosecutors say he gave her the final fatal dose of cyanide.
So was anybody in the hospital catching any of this going on? Like, is he putting it in her IV? Like, how is he administering the cyanide in the hospital?
That's a fair question. And the prosecution hasn't really solidified that yet. I believe in their opening statement, they referenced something about they think it was put into a pill and given to Angela. But, why would Angela be taking a pill from her husband? I guess perhaps he could have concocted some kind of ruse and said, hey, this is going to help you get better, and given it to her. But that being said, there were no medical personnel who intervened during that interaction, and no reports of, hey, there's a strange man in scrubs who doesn't work here who's going into this super sick lady's room.
Is that an insane lack of security? More than anything else? I mean, anybody in theory, unless you got somebody guarding your door, if it's visiting hours, I guess you could sneak into the bathroom, throw some scrubs on, get the same color everybody else is wearing, and blend in fairly well. People may go, who's that new guy? I don't know. Maybe he's on the third floor and he's just on the wrong floor. I don't know. They got Charleston chews in the vending machine on this floor, and it's what he came up here for, and to give a cyanide pill to his wife. I don't know. I mean, it just seems... I don't know. Is that a lax area that maybe there should be a little accountability for?
It could be. And, testimony from the medical personnel, there was a doctor on the stand earlier in the trial, multiple nurses, and they kind of said, hey, this was a very busy day, the multiple days that she was in the hospital. Sure. We had a lot of cases. In fact, some of the nurses who testified didn't even have a personal recollection of seeing Angela. They had to reference their notes and then sort of testify based on the notes. So it sounds like there was a lot going on. There are traveling nurses, so new personnel. Folks might not, raise an eyebrow with someone who goes in scrubs to a hospital room, and they might just think, hey, maybe that's a new guy or a traveling nurse or something else.
Yeah, I mean, if it's just another normal day at the office, because there's a lot of commotion and that's just how it is, you really wouldn't think a whole lot. After his arrest, Craig allegedly wrote a letter to his teenage daughter asking her to create a deepfake video of Angela admitting suicide. Clearly, he's not the most up on how these things are done. It's not that easy. He also is accused of trying to recruit jailhouse witnesses and offering money to take care of a detective. So there's a few things to unpack in this area. How damning is it when the defendant is shown to be orchestrating a cover-up after the alleged crime itself, especially if you're pleading innocent?
If you are factually innocent, if you didn't do anything, it's a tremendous gamble to try and off the lead detective's solicitation of murder. And then on top of that, to recruit your own children to try and fabricate evidence, potentially exposing that kiddo to their own criminal liability. These are some audacious moves from behind the prison bars there in jail. And so very surprising and kind of consistent with this alleged image that James Craig thinks he's untouchable and can kind of get away with whatever.
How did that play out in the courtroom when this was brought up that he was asking his daughter to go and create deep fake videos, erase your metadata, and using words that he clearly doesn't quite understand how they all apply? You can't just go, deep fake mom asking to kill herself. I mean, it would take a little work. And I know how to make these sort of things. Even that would be a difficult one to do today, to make it especially stand up to anything. It would be found out to be fake. Is he just that stupid? And also, what happened with the daughter when this request was made?
Yeah. So in terms of the daughter's testimony, First they talked about how the daughter felt about her mom and the mom's future plans. She wanted to be a grandmother. She wanted to move into her forever home sometime soon. All of that's inconsistent with suicide. And the daughters were just saying, how great the mother was. And then they contrasted that with this alleged request by way of a letter from James Craig to his daughter to do the deepfake video, which, in this day and age, they have digital forensics experts. They can bring in Secret Service folks, high-level professional witnesses who can really pick apart some kind of, deepfake video, look for clues that indicate that it's fake. And so, I'm not sure how he thought he would get away with this and not be found out. Now, he's going to say that these jailhouse snitches, and one of them was actually a conduit for the letter. Allegedly, James Craig gave it to an inmate who then gave it to the daughter. They're going to say that all of this was made up and these jailhouse snitches are just trying to curry favor to get their own benefit on their own cases.
So that's the excuse. It's all fake. Didn't happen. Not real. I guess that's the easy way of trying to explain it. It just didn't happen. That's not. The daughter, did she testify?
Two daughters testified.
Whose side are they on right now?
So the takeaways from their testimony and sort of just the tone of their testimony really seemed to be praising their mother, talking about how great the mother was. She was a mother of 6, and that this was the thing that she was best at, was being a mother. And so some really heart-wrenching testimony in there from these daughters who appeared to be, in a sense, aligned with their mother. They were called as witnesses for the prosecution. So by that very nature, they're testifying against their father. And there weren't too many points scored by the defense during their testimony. So at the end of the day, I would say that they supported the prosecution and the alleged victim, Angela Craig.
I mean, they could have pleaded the fifth if they wanted to support their father, correct? I mean, that could have been part of the equation. I mean, this really does show us that they probably have accepted maybe who he is. That would be an interesting conversation to have. How old are these kids? Everything I've been reading is they're teenagers. I mean, how old are they that he's making these requests of them?
So there is an order by the judge in the case that prohibits disclosure of the children's names.
Yeah.
However, the children who testified, I believe they were in their early 20s, like 20 and 21 or so.
So they're adults.
So still pretty darn young.
Young, but adults. It's not like a 12-year-old.
Adults, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I mean, when you have this kind of manipulation going on, I mean, of course you can say, well, it's all a lie. Then the jury's going to have to, wade through that. What about the other accusations that are flying here? That he was trying to put a $20,000 hit out on, what was it, the DA? I mean, a $20,000 hit and also trying to influence some witnesses here. How has that played out thus far?
Yeah, so we haven't gotten really to the meat of that just yet. The allegation is that he tried to put a hit on lead detective Bobby Olson. She is a detective with the Aurora Police Department in the Major Crimes Unit. She is at the helm of this case, and so whenever there is a threat on law enforcement, prosecution takes that so seriously. In part because they work hand in hand with these folks on a day-to-day basis. They develop a rapport. And when you're going after a lead detective, you're kind of going after one of their own. And so the prosecution are certainly taking that extremely seriously in terms of how they're going after James Craig for that solicitation of murder charge.
What exactly are they alleging happened here behind bars where he makes this request out there with the offer of $20,000?
My understanding is that he made several requests behind bars. One of the requests was to an inmate to try to arrange for lead detective Bobby Olson to be killed. We haven't heard really the finite details of that just yet. I think they're going to get into that this week. But in addition to that, he approached some inmates who were there in jail for fraud and for kind of a forgery ring. And he wanted them to try to drum up and fabricate some kind of evidence to show that Angela Craig was suicidal that he was then going to combine with this deepfake video he wanted his daughter to make.
Has he completely just lost his mind at this point? I mean, this is just so grandiose. I mean, like, no one's going to raise a red flag. Oh, the lead detective, dead. I wonder if it's connected to any of the cases this lead detective might be a part of. Hey, maybe this guy over here who has a history of trying to kill people. So is this going to be another thing that the defense is going to argue it's fake, it's made up, somebody is doing this to garner favor with something, and this is something he just didn't do?
I believe so. At least one of the requests that James Craig allegedly made of an inmate was just verbal. So they don't have like a letter. They don't have texts or emails or something like that. They're just saying that there was a verbal exchange inside the jail. And what the defense is going to say is that, hey, you can't believe these inmates. They knew this was a high profile case. And what they did was they made some stuff up because they thought it might help their own cases, might mitigate their own sentences. That's the horse defense is going to ride on many of these activities inside the jail that James Craig allegedly perpetrated.
And is that really that crazy of a response? I mean, inmates will make things up to get whatever advantage they can have. And if you don't have it on paper, which even when they have it on paper half the time is up for debate, like that doesn't look like it's his right. It's verbal. Okay, sounds pretty horrible, but don't they need something a little stronger than that if it's going to stick?
It would certainly be helpful to have that. I think the way the prosecution is going to handle it is to say, hey, there are all these measures he took within the jail, some of which does have documentation, like letters, like requesting his daughter do the deepfake. And so it's not really a logical leap to say, oh, and he also took these other consistent, very similar measures, all with an objective to cover up this murder of his wife. I think that's the way the prosecution's going to play it, even though they don't have, some smoking gun of a text message saying, hey, go kill the lead detective. They're going to bring it all together and say, hey, if he did X, he probably did Y, yeah?
Yeah, like if you're capable of doing this, you're certainly capable of doing that. And I would say in a lot of cases, that's a very true statement, but that's not how we decide guilt and innocence in our country. At least we're not supposed to, but sometimes we do. If Angela's death was the crime, the cover-up might be the confession. Because what we've seen in this part of the case, the deepfake requests, the bribery attempts, the alleged jailhouse schemes, it's not just a bad look, it's a roadmap. It shows where Craig's mind was after the crime, and it raises a brutal question. If he were innocent, would he need to fabricate an entire fake reality? That's where prosecutors are aiming. They're not just saying Craig killed his wife, they're saying he kept trying to bury her all over again, this time in digital lies and coached false testimony. It's hard to imagine a jury hearing that and not feeling something shift. Because murder is one thing, but involving your own daughter in the aftermath, writing instructions for how to fake a video of her dead mother admitting to suicide, that's a whole new level of moral collapse. And from a legal strategy standpoint, it adds a dangerous twist. Jurors may come to see everything, even Craig's courtroom demeanor, through the lens of manipulation. Every smile becomes calculated. Every denial becomes theater. And the deeper he tries to pull people into his version of the story, the more it reinforces the prosecution's. That this wasn't just a murder. It was a production. But the defense isn't out of options. They can challenge the chain of custody on the letters. They can argue exaggerations. They can say these were the rantings of a man in panic, not a mastermind. But at this point, it's not just about what they say. It's about whether the jury's already made up its mind. And here's what lingers. If Craig really believed he was innocent, wouldn't his first instinct be to prove it? Not to fictionalize it? The moment you try to rewrite the narrative using the voice of the person who can no longer speak for themselves, it stops being defense and it starts looking like guilt on paper. Now, the jury's heard the behavior. They've seen the evidence. They know the motive, the method, and the aftermath. But will it be enough to convict? That's the question everyone is asking. Let us know in the comment section on YouTube what you think. Just search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi if you're not already there. If you're listening on the podcast platforms, be sure to press subscribe there as well. Next up in our interview, we'll dig into the final battle, strategy, momentum. and whether this case, with all its twists, is headed for a verdict or a hung jury. Press subscribe so you don't miss that. If you want to hear it in advance, become a premium subscriber on Apple Podcasts or on YouTube, and you can get access to it right away. If you're listening to this later, well, it might already be out. So check that out. Drops tomorrow if you're watching this in real time. Until next time, I'm Tony Bruschi. We will talk again real soon.
Craving non-stop true crime updates? Press subscribe now and get the latest cases, analysis, and expert commentary delivered straight to your feed. Only from the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.